Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Office Hours. In this session, we are going to walk through how you can monetize your passion or your expertise. I've gotten a lot of questions about that, and I want to show people how to do that by walking you through it. And we're going to do that. It's three more. Hello, Debbie. There are three sessions left in this year. And in the next three sessions, I'm going to break down each area that you need to use or go through to be able to monetize your skills. Because if you're a content creator, you will be able to, you're most likely able to monetize your skills or the passion that you have creating that content. There's just some specific ways you need to do that. And I'm going to walk through the process and use an example that I'm researching so that I can kind of give you an idea of what that looks like. So, the first phase of that is to think about the one thing that you want to focus on. If you currently have a channel, your channel is most likely about something you're very passionate about or something that you have a lot of experience in and you've had some like huge transformation. The example I'm going to be working with through the next 3 weeks will be a woman that's had an amazing transformation with both her business and her body, her mindset, and she wants to be able to help other women get that transformation. So there's a lot of questions you have to ask yourself before you even start. But the first thing is, what is that? Do you have a transformation? Or do you have a set of particular skills that you're going to offer to people as a way to monetize your skills? Like if you have a channel or you're thinking about building a channel to monetize, besides YouTube paying you, if you have some expertise that solve a problem. So let's step back for a minute. To monetize your skills, the main thing, the main objective is to solve a problem and solve a big problem, because usually people pay for big problems. They don't pay for vitamins, they pay for painkillers. So you're gonna hear that throughout the next 3 weeks, because we don't want to attract offers or find solutions for vitamins. We want solutions for painkillers. So as we talk about what our offer is going to be, the main thing, before we even talk about the offer, what is that transformation? What is it? How did we transform? And most of the people that have some kind of channel or content that they're creating about, it started with their own transformation. And that's perfectly fine. We just want to be able to clearly define that transformation, because if you're going to be helping other people through it, you need to have a clear idea of what that transformation means. How have you documented it? Is it some type of framework or process that you followed? Because if you're going to lead someone else through that, there needs to be some type of system for it. So the transformation is key. What is your transformation? And if it's not a transformation that you currently or you experienced, what is the problem that you can solve for people? Because once you understand, okay, people have this particular problem and I help them solve it. Going back to our example, what's your niche and what problem do you solve? In my imaginary offer, the research is going, I help women over 45 start or grow a business, move away from overwhelm, and also get back in track with their bodies. Maybe they've pushed their business to the front and the body's suffering because they're going all in on the business. So I want to be able to help these women get back to healthy habits, lose the extra weight, get back their energy levels so they can sustain their life, their personal life, as well as their business. So that was a rough draft of a niche and a problem solved. Next step is the research to find, hey, are there women that even care about that as a problem? So the first step is to go find out whatever your audience is, whatever your niche you've decided it is, go find those people. How do you find those people? You can create some surveys that ask questions. You can go have conversations with people that you know already that may be in a similar situation, or you can go where those people hang out and lurk and observe and ask questions over there. Or you can go do research online, use a little bit of AI, use a little bit of forums and the other tools we have available, and see what people are already asking for help with. That's the easiest place to start. Before there was AI, people just asked, how do I do this? Or they went to forums and asked how to do this, and everything would show up around that topic. So you could go, if you're trying to help women lose weight, how do I lose weight fast? And see what pulls up. Is any of that information going to be helpful to you? Maybe it's going to be the first step in your journey to figure out, okay, which group is mine and what problem am I solving directly? Because the first thing we've got to do is break it down, move away from some general group of women, men, children, working people, retired. There needs to be, you need to move it down, niche it down. That's why they say niche, because you need a specific group that you're going to focus on. So all of your intel and all of your information actually help you to solve one person's problem. It's like you're having a conversation with this one person. Because you're going to create those ideal client avatars, which we'll talk about probably next week. But today is just about thinking about that transformation. If you could walk through and ask yourself a bunch of questions before you ask the customers or people that you think may be customers, ask yourself those questions. What were your top struggles? What changed for you? What took you over the top to that transformation? Because a lot of people, when it comes to weight loss, people will be trying diets, years, different diets, hundreds of diets. And then at some point, something changes. And then they go over to this other side where they dreamed of being all their lives. But at some point, they can identify clearly what changed for them. That's your job to find out. Ask yourself those questions up front for whatever your transformation is. This transformation I'm talking about, the example is fitness and business and weight loss. But what type of things did you struggle with? What was the problem you started with? So you can see your problem was this you started with, and then you ended up over here. You will be able to understand that quickly. And then what finally clicked? At what point were you struggling and something just switched over? Because people don't just get solutions. They're looking for someone that understands their journey through the solution. And it's like that with weight loss. It's like that relationships. It's like that with, making money. Everybody's looking for solutions, but they're looking for the solutions with a relatable person that they feel like, I understand, that person understands what I've gone through. And that's your job as the person that's gone through these transformations to be clear about your transformation and be clear about the transformation you're going to help others go through. So ask yourself those questions before you start creating the questions for the other person. Because you really, if you're not going with like a firm expertise in some specific skill sets that you have, and this is about some transformation that you walked through, you really do need to be clear about how you process through that. Do you have a framework? But now we're going to talk about the ways that you get the research. When I started business years ago, we didn't have a lot of the stuff that we have available now. Yes, I think, YouTube existed. I didn't use it in the way that people use it now. I don't even know if it worked that way back then. But the thing is, there's so many tools available now. There's no reason not to get really good results for your surveys. You can reach out and contact people easily. You can find people where they are. You can ask AI to find out what groups do these particular groups of people that I want to target, where do they hang out? And then go to those places and ask the questions. You don't have to use a lot of complicated tech. You can use a Google form, make a Google form, or you can just have a simple scheduler. If you want to book a coffee chat with them, have a scheduler and have a few questions asked in the scheduler, or just get on a coffee chat with somebody and you ask the questions. Then you're not even using any complicated tech. You can just track the people that you talk to, their responses to the questions on a spreadsheet. That keeps it very low and minimal tech, no trouble, and it should be simple for you to manage. Now, if you want to get a little bit fancier, you can. You can use a Google Forms or a Microsoft form and send the links to people, and it will record all of their responses and make a spreadsheet for that. That's still a pretty simple operation too. But the goal is to find where those people are. Go look around and see what they're searching. Debbie, we talked about that before. Go where these people hang out and observe what they're responding to. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Maybe some people are already doing what we want to do. Look at their material and see, what do people respond to? Do they respond to the webinar about losing weight during Christmas, or do they respond to the boot camp for releasing the weight after the holidays? Which ones do they respond to? And then that's evidence for you to figure out for your offer what you're going to come up with. But again, you're finding these people, finding out, because before we go too far, YouTube attracts a lot of people. YouTube will attract a lot of people that come to learn something, but there will be a much smaller group of people that come to your channel and move over to become clients with you. So you want to get as clear information as possible, so you are focusing on the right group of people, because your content in your channel, that's going to get people's eyes on you. But when you have a solid offer, because you've done the research and you know this is a viable, they're willing to pay for this problem to be solved, then your process should be much easier and much smoother to move to that stage where people are attracted to your offer. And then you can be clear on your offer, because a lot of times I get people asking, hey, can you help me make an offer? But if you're not even clear on the audience, how can we create an offer? So getting strict clarity on the group of people that you work with and making sure that that group of people actually cares about that solution. Because we know weight loss and fitness is an interesting area. There may be people that would love to make changes, but are they committed to doing something about making the changes? That depends. So the people you need to hone in on are the people that feel like it's definitely a painkiller. They're looking for a painkiller, not the people that feel like, I can lose it, or, you want those people that, I need to lose this weight yesterday. This is ruining my life. I can't see my future with this. This needs to come off now. That would be the group of people that you're looking for, because they actually see it as this keeps me up at night problem. Because what we don't want to attract is people that, I love, watching whatever you're doing, but, I can take it. I can take it or leave it. We don't want people on the fence. We want people clearly interested in solving these problems. So that's your job, to find those people, find out where they hang out, so you can go and see what they're doing and how they're actively engaging with others. And then you can reach out to people for the survey. A lot of times I tell people to start in your own network. And I don't mean that in an MLM-ish kind of way. I mean, ask questions in your network. Ask people if you could interview them for something you're creating. You're just curious if there's any real interest, or ask them to introduce you to other people in their circle. You're not selling anything yet. You're getting intel from them. So we talked a lot about research. If there's any questions before I move on to the next thing, I'll take questions right now. But the next thing I want to talk about is an offer. Assuming you've got your audience, you figured out the audience, you figured out they do want the help, they do want support, they will, it's a viable offer. You've tested it as far as like you in your surveys. We're going to talk, you can't test the offer you haven't created yet. But we're talking about the surveys, the results are coming back. hey, people want to lose weight ASAP and they want to lose it, with support. So now we're going to start to ask the questions around building out an offer. And for that, we still start with the main question of what's the niche? What are you going to do for them? Now we start to think about, well, who's the ideal client? Now we just talked about who thinks this is the real problem. We're going to go find all these people that actually care about losing weight and building a business at the same time. So we found those people. Now it's time to make the ideal client avatar. And a lot of times they get, hear people confused about what that means. And it's really like an avatar that represents all the clients, but it's your ideal client. Like I've had a couple of different avatars, but I could think of when I do the research, when I come up with one, it's usually a woman in a certain age bracket. She's doing well for herself. She's either employed, she makes a certain income. She doesn't have a lot of responsibility at home as far as like she's an empty nester or she doesn't have children. So she doesn't have all these commitments to her time. So those are demographics that you come up with. But your ideal client is who you believe is your ideal client, who would do well with your offer, the type of person that would go in and be very successful, or just the type of person that you would love to work with. When I started creating ideal clients, I started with the type of people I really loved working with. I started out with a done-for-you business where we're like providing services to businesses. And it was easy to come up with the type of person I would love to work out. I had certain clients that I would be like, hey, if I could clone her, oh my goodness, I would just have 20, 30 of her. And it's because of the personality, how they see their business or whatever the thing is you're working with, how they see themselves, how they see moving through problems, and how professional they are. These different aspects were important to me. Their character, those things were important to me. So they were part of that client, the ideal client avatar I created for myself. Next, you're going to, once you figure out that person, what's your audience's biggest problems? Depending on what your offer is, what are their biggest problems? And a lot of these things, they can be answered on those questionnaires, because you'd be surprised how many people will tell you their problems if you ask. And it's just asking in a clear-cut, nice way on a questionnaire. Ask them, what are their problems? What are the things that they're working on? What are their biggest problems is the real focus, because we want to focus on problems that keep them up at night. Ask people, what are the things that keep you up at night? For these women that you have these conversations with that you think might be, or even in the questionnaire, just ask them, what keeps you up at night? What worries you? Whether it's personal or business, what keeps you up at night? And let them tell you. And then you take that info and figure out where that fits into your program, because their problems are going to be the solutions that you offer. And if you actually, a lot of the times it's not really different. They just use different wording. And that's what we're trying to get to. How do they see their problem? How do they see possible solutions for their problem? What type of help are they looking for? Those are the type of questions that you're going to ask them in the questionnaire or in conversations. You need to know these questions, the answers to these questions. One of the most important questions is, what's your ideal client's dream outcome? Because in the end, that's usually what you're selling. You're not selling, oh, I have this, meal set and a pantry clean out kit and some other things. I do this outcome that they want. I help you get to this outcome. That is the true thing that people pay for. They're not paying for these kits and tools and things that you give them. Most people are paying for that desired outcome. Therefore, you have to know what that desired outcome is. Do you know what your audience's desired outcome is? Have you done the research to find out? Because one thing with weight loss, there are lots of different outcomes for women, and you can go see what those outcomes are and then decide which group of outcomes you want to help support. Because I hear a lot of people say, oh, I want to help these women, we get healthier. But do they really care about that primary? Are they saying that in their language? Or are they saying, I want to be attractive again? I want to be hot again. I want to look a certain way and feel confident when I'm on stage and speaking for my business. I feel invisible because I don't look the way I want to look. Those are the things that have come out of other people's mouths about their actual problem. Not one of them said anything about being healthy, because they assume as they release that weight that they're going to get healthier. But that's not the primary thing on their mind. So rather than me feed them language about, oh, when we start to work on fasting, you probably will feel so much you feel so much helpful, feel so much better than you currently were, or anything like that. You want to focus on, what's this message? I don't know what that is. So is anybody having trouble seeing me or hearing me? I got a weird error message I don't recognize. Anyway, okay, so if everything's okay, I'll keep going. You want to know how they communicate their language. See, Debbie, your channel and your membership are both called Sexy After 60 Weight Loss. So that is what I'm talking about, because while we're the expert and we think, oh, people want to be healthier, sure they do, but what do they say they want more? Because when I do the research, more people want to get their mojo back. They want to feel attractive. They want to stop feeling invisible. Those are answers and responses I got, more so than being healthy, or even the people that wanted help with launching their businesses. Oh, you took our suggestions. Yeah, because we're in that target audience, and those are things we're thinking, not necessarily. And the other ones aren't good or bad, but we want what your audience is thinking. When I use language that I use as a business owner, as a business coach, to people, they'd be like, oh, that's interesting. But when I use the language they themselves use about their problem, the conversation got different. So we always want to use the conversation, the language, and have the perception of our client, our prospect's view of things, because that's the whole reason that you want to know their dream outcome. When you have that questionnaire and you're asking them, in a perfect world, what would your business and your body look like? And then they say, oh, my business is, making $5,000 a month, and my body is, I look and feel amazing. I'm always out front. I speak to sell my offers, and I feel very confident. They're telling you that, then that's what your language should be back to them about your offers. Even though what you do is currently pretty much the same thing as what they just said, you just may communicate it different. Which one are they going to hear? They're going to hear how they see it. They're going to understand that you see it a different way, but they're only going to care about the way they see it. They're only going to care about that. So that's our job, to learn their language. How do they communicate it? Especially about their desired outcome. How do they see their life when all these things change? What's that perfect version of themselves? And then have them ask them clearly, what do they want more than anything else? And how would they describe it? If it's more than one thing, have them make a list. You can keep it to 3, but your job is to know those things, because you've gone out and done the research and you've asked enough people that those things show up on the questionnaire. But a big one for questionnaires is, if they could snap their fingers, what would their business or their body or whatever the situation look like in 6 months from now? Because when you keep the time, not so short that it's not realistic to see results, but not so long that how people are, they're impatient. They start to tell you what they really imagined it would look like. And that's where you get this intel that will help you building out your offer, testing it to see if it's a viable, if people are accepting it at the price point, what changes you'll have to make. Because knowing those things about your audience are the first step. And once you do that right, the other stuff comes. When you make an offer, they're going to jump on it. And from there, so you've done this research, you've got these answers. Now you're going to have to list out all the possible problems that prospect can encounter from going where they are to that dream outcome. So you see why those questions are important. They're here. This is where they currently are. Their desired outcome is over here. All the problems that they're going to encounter to get over there. You're going to have all the things that happen, all the things. When it comes to weight loss, it can be a number of things. If they're here, say they're 50 pounds overweight and they want to be what they weighed when they were in high school, and that's probably 70 pounds more than that they would need to lose. Well, first of all, they've got some kind of, something going on there. So all the problems that is going to come up when they start that journey, you list them, because you're going to have a solution for all those things. Your job is going to have a solution for all those things. So you can't miss this step, listing all the problems that come up between where they are now to where their desired outcome. And you're listing them so that you can have a solution for them. Every intricate step, everything they can encounter, because they're going to need to know that these are the things that are going to happen, but also that you have a solution for all of those things. So if you list like, okay, right now you don't know, how to figure out your food, you don't know how to prepare your meals, you got sugar cravings, you're experiencing, low energy, and all those things that are obstacles or problems, you're going to list out a solution for them. Just like I said, have 3 steps to squashing those sugar cravings, have things to give you plenty of energy, have all kinds of tools to give you plenty of energy. Everything that you list as a problem, you're going to list one of your solutions for it. And this is really key. This is why it's really key to have the process you use for your transformation, because your process you use for your transformation will make this easier, because hopefully in your transformation, you documented all those different things. You've got the things where you got the things where you ended. So this is an easy, simple process for you. For some people, it's not. Maybe they haven't documented it, but as they go through these steps, then that will help them on their way to documenting what their transformation was. And then your job is to answer all these questions to design an offer. But the biggest part before we even get too deep in the offer is to validate the needs and test the core messaging. So learning, that's why we had to learn what the audience, how they communicate their desires, how they communicate their problems, how, like, some people think of weight loss as, I've always been like this and I don't know what to do to fix it. Or, it would be so nice to be slim, or however they communicate it. You need to know that way, especially if it's a particular group. Now, I'm sure each group age-wise communicates how they feel about weight loss differently. I'm almost positive of that. But your job is to figure out which group, for whatever problem you're going to be solving, how they communicate that. It's the same with when we talk to women about investing or trading. How 20 and 30-year-olds talk about investing and trading is probably very different from how a woman over 45 or 50 may communicate her questions or concerns about investing and trading. So when you pick your niche and you pick your audience, all that information, it becomes easier to get that information because you've narrowed down your search. Instead of looking at all the women that want to lose weight while they're building a business, I can be looking at all the women over 50 that are building a new business and feel like their body doesn't match. rather, or whatever language they're using, or if they're even using that language, or if they even care. That's our job to find those things out, because what may be a transformation for us, no one else may care about it, but that's still your job to find out if they care enough about it to invest and pay for it, because people caring about things isn't necessarily going to get you monetized. People feeling like it's a painkiller solution, that's what's going to get you monetized. If they think it's a nice to have, and most likely we can't depend on that. So getting out to find that audience, getting out to find the answers to those questions. And then from there, you've done those research, you've found your audience, you've looked, you've had conversations. Now you can start to answer all these questions that will need to be answered as deeply as possible before we move to the next thing next week, when we start to figure out what our offer is going to look like. Because we're going to spend quite a bit of time researching, especially if we are not really super clear about our offer, and you haven't interviewed at least 20 people about the particular type of problem you solve. You need to go back to the drawing board and do that. Even if you've gone online and used some AI tools to scrape answers and things, I still advocate, talk to real people. Go to those forums, find out questions people ask, find out the comments, use that intel, but talk to some real people. You're going to have real clients, so you want to talk to real people before you decide, this is going to be an offer that I have. This is going to be my pathway to monetize in my experience. We don't want you wasting a lot of time with something that people are not prepared to pay money for. People do that all the time. It's like one of the top reasons people go out of business, because they've invested all the energy in something that people aren't willing to pay for, because they didn't do enough research. They did some, but not enough. That's not happening here. We're going to do plenty of research. Find out what your audience, and that, to me, that's the best way to use AI. Ask the questions, find the research, get them to go do the research. They scrape websites and stuff anyway. So have them go find all the details that you need, ask them those questions, and then you go out and talk to the real, breathing people and get the rest of the intel. So are there any questions about, Debbie, thinking of asking in AA or some other groups? Yeah, you can ask in those groups, but I would definitely find out where my age, the group, your niche, your age group, where do they hang out the most? They may not be in those other like school communities or whatever. They may be in Quora, Quora, Reddit subgroups. Reddit has a lot of subgroups, and they're very not separated. They're very clearly categorized. So you can do, and I say survey, I mean have some structured questions, and you can ask people the structured questions, or you can have a conversation with somebody and ask them if they'd fill the survey out for you. So, and start tracking all the results you get in. Stay away from people that like you. I mean, that sounds crazy, but stay away from people that really like you and care about you, because they're going to just support you. We don't want that. We want people that don't know us, that maybe possibly have this type of situation going on, and they would clearly answer the questions in a neutral way. That's what we want. Is that answer your question, Debbie, about what type of survey, or do you want me to go through some example questions? So so create the questions. I would say create the questions first based on what we just talked about, what their top struggles are, what they've tried already, things like that, and ask them that in the survey, and what in a perfect world would be the ideal solution for them to solve those. A couple of examples. Okay. So let me see. I have some questionnaire. I'm going to give a business questionnaire example, and then I'm going to give one for like fitness and weight loss. Let me go pull it up. But I love questionnaires for intel, because people, if you're not being salesy and pushy, they will answer the questions for you. They love sharing their problems. You ask the right questions, you will definitely get answers that you can use for intel. So I've got a business strategy one. I'm going to give you an example of somebody that's for a program that I'm launching that's kind of intense, plus it's involved. So a couple of the questions, it's for business. Briefly describe your business. What do you sell and who do you sell it to? So here I find out from people, if they're just starting a business, do they even know what they sell and do they know who they sell it to? Because they'll usually say, oh, I'm just thinking about the idea, or they clearly have an offer and there's just not anybody buying it or something. And then I ask them, what are their top challenges, top 3 challenges? I kind of limit that because I don't want them going down like 20 things, because 20 things don't matter. There will be a small number of things that actually matter to a person. I asked them about, now this is for a business program, what their current monthly revenue range is. And I start with 0 to 2K a month, 2K to 5K, 5, 10, 10 plus. And then I ask, are you in a season of life where you can commit 3 to 10 hours a week to your business? I ask that because it's super important to ask people what their time looks like. Get them to say what their time looks like and how much, because lots of times people don't believe that they have that much time. And then when they start to actually, they're kind of forced to think about it. Then it's just a matter of, is this important to you? Is this business important to you or not? And by asking this question, I give them kind of a gentle push toward thinking about it if they hadn't been thinking about it. Another question I ask on business that would also work for like a fitness, online fitness coach. What was the last hard thing you did physically or in business, and how did you push through it? That can be very telling because you want to know how people handle obstacles, especially whether it's a fitness coach or a business coach. You need to know how people handle. Hello, Kay. It's okay. We're just going over the research, how to get the goods on figuring out if our business is going to be viable and making money. So hello. So in this business example, just like I said, that question, the last question I asked, what was the last hard thing you did physically or in business and how did you push through it? That says a lot for me, and that helps me get an idea what that person is doing. Now, that questionnaire that I have, that's for people that have reached out and want to do something. But those questions could very well be on a questionnaire that you send to people you're trying to figure out if your business idea is viable, or if your offer, if it's going to be enough people that want to pay for that. You could ask those questions as well. So that's why I'm sharing those examples. That was for the business side, but you definitely could ask that question because it would really help you understand and help the person explain how they work through things. And then that will be one piece of information you have when working with people like that. Hey, there's a group. You may see trends when they answer the question. You're like, oh my God, I saw 10 women say the same thing about how they handle or push through things. They don't. They need somebody to hold their hand. Got it. I'm going to add more hand holding and accountability in my program. That's why you ask those questions, to help you, to guide you with what your offer is going to become based on what people need. Now, for the questions around a fitness program or like my Sexy After 60 bootcamp example, this is for people, if I'm thinking about this kind of program, I would ask these questions. And also, before people came to me about the program, I would also have like a questionnaire that I screen tire kickers out for. And I have some questions like, what are their goals and motivation? So they can share with me if they have some. Now, typically goals and motivation is a generic, but I just want them to give me a rough preview. And this whole section is really about their goals and motivation. But I do want them to kind of like rattle off some goals and if they've got something. And the first question, in your own words, what is your primary health or fitness goal right now? And let them say it in their own words. Don't give them a drop down like choices. Let them say what their goals are. because that's where you're going to get a lot of information too. And you'll hear what is a painkiller, what's a vitamin to them. And then asking them on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is achieving this goal to you right this minute, right now? And saying right now kind of gives another piece of information, because they have to think about, is it really important for me to release this weight and to build my business, or what's important to me really now? And if they answer anything less than 9, yeah, that says a lot to me. They're not fully committed, because if you want something really bad, you're going to be like 10, 12. But if you're thinking about it, you're not sure, it might be 7, it might maybe 6. And then another question for fitness and for business, but mostly for fitness: what has stopped you from achieving this goal in the past? Remember, we just asked them their own goal. They just told us, hey, my goal is to release 60 pounds within this year. And then you ask them, what has stopped you from achieving this goal in the past? Then you give them some drop downs and have one other. I've got a drop down of lack of time, busy schedule, lack of knowledge, don't know what to eat or do, lack of accountability, quit when it gets hard, injury or pain, emotional eating, stress, and other. So usually they get multiples. I get multiples in a few surveys I've sent out. I've gotten multiples or other, and it's some other thing that's really just one of these other ones when you break it down. And then I have health and lifestyle section that kind of just ask them, you could ask them, their current activity level, because you're going to need to know that if you're going to help somebody, especially virtually. Are they sedentary? Do they have a desk job and don't exercise at all? Are they lightly active? Are they getting out for walks? Maybe an occasional workout? Are they moderately active? Maybe 2 to 3 times a week? Very active. Because you may figure out your target audience is based on their activity level. Maybe it's somebody that can't really get out the house much, but you want to show them how they can actually release this weight without a lot of, rambunctious activity. That could be a target audience for you based on how many results you get, what your results are from your questionnaires. And then, of course, the dietary preference things. I use that on my business one for my retreats, because I don't do a lot of fancy diets on my retreats. These restaurants, I'm trying to hear all that. So I need to know if people are doing all kinds of fancy stuff, then I tell them, hey, this probably isn't a fit for you. But as a fitness coach, you would need to know these people's restrictions. If they can eat everything and that's the problem, or maybe they're vegetarian and they're trying to figure out, how to eat less carb, or whatever their problem is, less calories, or if they have these gluten issues, or you want to know all that. You also want to know if they've got any kind of eating disorders as well. So you ask these questions here. You can ask them about injuries or medical conditions, and you can ask them about sleep. But also, now on the question, when you're just doing exploration research, you don't need to ask about the investment and commitment. I save that for people that are coming to me for a discovery call. But when you're doing your research just to find out about your business idea, you could ask, if you were looking for a program, what would be the price range you would be in your budget for working with a professional that would, help you with this problem. You could add that on, but that's not really required because you're still in research mode. We can get through the other financial part later once we have an actual offer up. But that is a question that you could have for discovery calls. And then another one that is for discovery calls, but not so much for research, if they're ready, when they're going to be ready to start. Because when people say they're solving problems, if they don't say immediately or within the next 2 weeks, they're not really ready to do anything. They're browsing, researching, whatever, which is okay. You just want the intel for that. That's it. That's your goal, to get all this intel so that you can put it on your tracker and take a look at and see if there's any trends. Now, when it comes to fitness, when it comes to business, when it comes to relationships and money, there are lots of people that want those problems solved. It just is up to you to find out who those people are that are willing to invest in time, effort, and finance financial resources into solving those problems. But having those questionnaires is a fantastic way to get started with that research. Does anybody have any questions? Kay, do you have any questions? We're really just talking about finding your target audience and going out doing the research to find out where they hang out, what language they use to describe their problems, so we can create a questionnaire to go get the answers to find out if our current situation is going to be a viable business. Because most of us have some type of a content creation channel based on some expertise or passion, but we also want to monetize it as a separate offer. And that's great, Kay, because if you want to figure out what you want to do, there's also going to be another training about figuring out how to use your existing skills, because a lot of us have these skill sets that we just need to kind of put them in front of us, inventory them, and then see where they match when it comes to problem solving. And a lot of times we think, oh, we don't know how to do anything special. We do the same thing everybody else does, but that's not true. You probably are sitting on some skills that could solve some pretty big problems. It's just a matter of inventorying the skills and then finding the types of problems that skill set will solve. So yeah, once you figure out, what direction you want to head into, just drop in here and we will definitely help you figure out what direction you want to go with that. Or you can, attend one of our workshops where we have people that don't even have a business idea. They're just thinking about their skill sets and how they can monetize them, which is the easiest thing to walk through, but not so much. You're welcome, Kay. You're welcome. So we talked about the research. Does anybody have questions with the research? This example that I'm going to be using for the next 3 weeks is a fitness coach that also coaches women that have put all of their energy into starting a business and they fell off with their body and taking care of themselves. So now they want to get both of them in sync. So that's the type of fitness coach that I'm kind of using it as an example, because I'm sending out questionnaires. I'm inviting people to answer some questions. I'll have a coffee chat with me. And I've gotten some interesting responses to that. So whatever your business idea is, you're welcome, Kay. Whatever your business idea is, start asking questions around it, because this is not a chicken before the egg kind of thing, because you have your skill sets for whatever you know how to do, whatever you're passionate about, whatever transformation you yourself have had, but you still want to have an audience that desires that problem solved. So we want to go find that before we start worrying about our offer. We know we have the skill set. I can walk us through creating an offer pretty quickly for that. But we don't want to create an offer that nobody wants. So we want to know what people want first and then tweak our offer based on that. So I hope this was helpful to everyone. And I will see you next week, because next week I'm going to bring back some research and I'm going to show you the research and how to create an offer based on the research. So if I don't have any more questions, I think that's going to be it for now. And thank you, ladies, for coming. See you next week. You're welcome, Debbie. Thank you.